Lovely, jubbly, just tricked you there. That's got to be reviewed, especially on the Perfectdraft Pro. This is quite a lot heavier. Especially when I went to oh, Jesus. Good afternoon, people. Right, what can I say? PJT, rate my beer, just me. No staff this time, because this is kind of one of them that's easier, as you've seen from the thumbnail, with one of us rather than two of us interrupting each other. And, you know, sometimes my wife can be damn rude in, you know, interrupting. So we say, and she'll say the same about me. Anyway, as I say, from the thumbnail, you'll know we're talking about what a year it's been, 2023. So, as a Perfectdraft owner. So firstly, I'd like to thank Dan and the team, you know, whether you're going on Joe, Jack, you know, all three of them contribute in a way that they all do their bit so that we've had, and for me, it's an absolutely fantastic year. You know, you can say what you like, but when you've had all together, let's not count proper re-releases, I'd pretty much go on 18 kegs. You wouldn't go on 18 really, you'd go on 17 if I'm honest, because obviously the San Miguel, which I was fortunate enough to try due to someone, wasn't a UK release. So if we took that out, we've had 17 if you're counting Club, and Club as a new keg, because obviously it was a 5% rather than a 5.5. Anyway, what I'm going to do is go through this list in the order that I've got them written down, not necessarily the order they came out, if that makes sense, because like obviously I forgot about the orange stout and that came later and so on. But you had Corona Zero, an excellent addition, which I've had myself, I've reviewed. Yeah, I was trying to get Dan to put it under 20% off actually last time to have one for dry January. A great addition, you know. As I said, you stick a lime in it, you can, you know, obviously, you know, none of us are that stupid that it's got no alcohol in it, but, you know, as time goes on, yeah, obviously I'm giving the main part of dry January a try, but I don't know how far we're going to get with that one. Actually, yeah, talking of the orange stout. The orange stout now, I'm not really a stout man myself. That came from Magic Rock. Obviously, that was one of the earlier kegs of the year. I think it came in at 5% ABV. Obviously, I haven't got a computer here. I'm out in the bar. And I actually managed to drink 5 pints of that. Well, I've never drank 5 pints of stout from anything in my life, especially in one sitting. Done a review in that and got quite into it. But I get what people say. There wasn't that much orange to it going back. But it still wasn't a bad drink, you know. And it wasn't a heavy stout. You know, like real power in the old coffee or anything. So for me, that was all right. Good enough keg. Obviously, not one of the best, because I'm not a stout man. Anyway, Lost Lager. A lot would say it could have stayed lost. Two ways of looking at that one. It was a lighter one for me. I found it all right, but I did find that over the course of time, drinking a few of them, it became too hoppy, but not a bad beer, you know. One that didn't really hit the notes for me was the Koppenberg. I love Orchard Pig from last year, don't get me wrong, but the Koppenberg was way too sweet, and for me it was a definite no-no. I tried everything with that, even tried putting it through the machine and snake biting it, and tried it against other things. The Koppenberg was just a no. And while we're talking of no's, on the same thing, we got the Brewdog Hopped in Harmony. That again for me just didn't hit the notes, you know. An IPA, more so a pale ale. I think obviously the Koppenberg was at 4, the Corona was 0, Lost Lager at 4.5. I think the Brewdog Hopped in Harmony was 4.5. So you can see I've got a load of it written down here, but one, it's not very neat, and two, I don't know if I've got the things right, because you also had the Camden Pale Ale as well. Obviously that's one of 3 Camdens, but we'll come to that in a minute. So if I don't work through this list, I'll totally mess all this up. Right, one of the 2 babies of the year. Obviously I think at some point me and Michelle are going to do a keg of the year and argue it out. But we've got these 2 loaded up at the moment. Obviously not these 2, the 2 that are in the machine. But yeah, the Hertog Grand Pilsner, none of us saw that coming. 5.8% ABV, and Jesus, has it delivered. I was fortunate enough to meet Mika, the master brewer, from the brewery in Manchester. Then we went over to Holland and met him again for the unveiling of his new beers, which I've still got, by the way, the special limited edition. There is some more we've done from the brewery since, but like I say, 5.8, 5.7 minute, I think. Yeah, 5.7, sorry. 5.7% ABV. And what an absolute peach of a keg. As I say, the keg of the years, I would probably say between them for me. Anyway, and then we were fortunate enough, and I did tell you all this lot, but no one listened. Obviously, when we met Jack, Dan and Joe in August at a beer festival, Jack told us he'd sourced some French beers, one being in Mont Blanc and one being in Incassi. Both at 6.5% ABV, and then Incassi being the flower lager, as I have a bottle here. Now these we were really unsure of, and I didn't read a lot of good things, but absolutely, both of them absolutely delivered. You know, they were both great in their own right. If you check through the videos, there's videos of them singly, there's videos of them together with both mine and Michelle's thoughts, and as I say, they absolutely, you know, it was a great addition to something that you never saw coming, and hats off, you know, for Jack, and that was Jack's one for doing that, so fair play. Well done, Jack. And then we got Club. Now, a lot of you have had your opinions, especially on certain beer groups. Now, for me, and I still remain the same, although it's not as good as one we're going to go on to soon, but I found it just as good, and I also found it not so hoppy, that I actually think I preferred it to the original Club. I don't know, you know, but it certainly wasn't as bad as what certain people say. You know, it's easy to moan. People love to moan. We get that one, isn't it? Then, as I say, we got the Camden IPA off menu, 5.8%, delivered as well. You know, as IPAs go, yeah, it's not the greatest thing on the book. I'm not an IPA expert, so it's not going to be my main preferred choice. I mean, I drank a couple of them, and Michelle was quite into that. And obviously, as I said, you did have your Camden Pale. Your Camden Pale, I found, could be a bit watery after a few, but as a refreshener and as a summer drink, would have been a great one. Because at the end of the day, you have a couple, that's it. That's the one good thing with having multiple machines, which was good as well. Then, of course, I was meant to get the keg up as well, because if I had the 3rd keg that was in the mix, it'd probably be the Left Blanche. Now, I wasn't sure about that. I had it in a bottle before it even came on a keg, and when we first had it in a keg, I wasn't sure, and I wasn't sure at all, you know, and I got more and more into it. I've got another 2 actually in now, and the 2nd keg we had of it, I started to really feel it. And I have done a thing of, like, you know, the 4 wheat beers where you've got both your Frankies, your Hogarten and your Left Blanche. I mean, 4 different Weissens. You know, any Weizen beer fan, that's a dream, isn't it, for me? So that probably would have been around the 3rd place one. The other one, we were talking about Camden. You had the Marzen, and that was another one that we never seen coming. Again, mixed reactions from everyone, which is fair enough. We're not all going to like the same things. I get that. I was fortunate enough to try the Marzen at Perfectdraft.com, and I was pretty taken in then. But I'd had a few, but then of course I got a keg when it came out and that. And for me, it was another one that delivered. Yes, it wasn't as good as your Lowenbrau or your Spaten, but it was never going to be. It's an English take on something different. But for me, it held its own. And I see a lot of people, as I say, mixed reviews and that, but a lot of people got more into it as they give it a shot. So that should be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. No, 14 I've gone. I haven't mentioned the Franz Kana Keller beer. Now this, 5.2% ABV, absolutely killed it for Michelle. Yeah, I did badger Dan and certain other members of the team, because I couldn't work out why they had such a great beer that weren't being kegged up. Obviously, it's not as easy, as you'll know. You can't just say, well, that goes in there and that's just going to go out and we can pump that out in kegs. Obviously, that's the same with the Hurton Wisen, which you never know, may come one day. But, you know, there was complications. They got over them and they got the keg out, and hell did it deliver. That was like, whoo, you know. I remember drinking a keg of that. It came out the day before I drove up north to Liverpool. Jesus, it weren't advisable, was it? Right, and then the one, I meant to hold them up, wouldn't I? Look, like this, with the empties. So I've got loads of empties here, which are all down here, but let's just say I'm an idiot. Okay, the Mahoo. Right, 5.1%, not quite your 5.4 at Spanish, so that gave everyone something to moan about. But Jesus, that was pretty good. You know, it wasn't the best thing in the world. It was never going to be. But as Michelle said, and rightly said, it's a brand. They're selling a brand like Koppenberg. You know why they're doing it. Everyone knows it. You can't keep putting beers like this that, yeah, we love them, but your average supermarket drinker, it's like, what the hell's that? What the hell's that? Is he going to try it? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he'll watch someone's YouTube reviews. Who knows, isn't it? But yeah, for me, that was an average keg, but it was good. You know, I've got another keg of it in. If it doesn't get used at Christmas, or I'll buy another one, because I think in the summer that would go definitely better. So, right. So this one here, I've got another one of these as well. This one is going to be a lot of people's keg of the year. Now I must admit, 5.7% ABV. Michelle had already, I think she scored it a 10 on a Cayenne, and we actually wrote not perfect draft. Never for 1 minute thinking it could come out, and then bango. I knew there was something coming that I'd heard from someone else through vacation. I thought it was a stout. I went opening up my big mouth to loads of people saying, yep, we got another stout coming, and it wasn't. It was that. You see? So that was another new one, and then obviously the last new one, unless anything happens now, which I can't really see, was the Stay Puft from Tiny Rebel, which again has gone down pretty well. Comes in at 5.2% ABV, and let's be honest, it's to say, if that's your thing, that's your thing. I did try it. Obviously, I did the review with Michelle. I had another half of it at another point. For me, it wasn't too sweet, but it wasn't exactly something I'm going to go, yeah, I'm going to get that again. Because for me, there's so many better options, you know. Again, it's my opinion, isn't it? Like, it's your opinion. Obviously, when you do a beer review, you get panned here and there on social media, and you're like, but it's subjective, you know. Or if you say, well, that keg's good, and someone else don't think it's good, it's like, you're at Perfectdraft's arse, and it's like, that's not really true, you know. At the end of the day, I drink the beers on the machine, and long before, like, Dan and Conrad, when it was Haley, and even before then, when it was obviously Beer Hawk, then I had a machine, you know, I think 9 years ago, so I may have just a little bit of an idea about it. Not a lot, but a little bit. Anyway, getting back to this, before this video goes on too long and no one bothers watching half of it, then you also had your re-releases. Going back to Snyder's, which I meant to show you, I've got a keg there of it, the Bay Rich Hells, which again was an absolute brilliant release. Didn't go too well first time around. There was a thing with the price issues and everything, which I get. 4.9% ABV. I think you'll see that every year now. The success of that, from what I know, has been good. I'm all right. We've still got a couple of kegs here of it. Obviously, you had both your Oktoberfests, which is a yearly thing, and you had your Royal, which was good. Obviously, your funniest kind of Royal, I mean, which is obviously, as most of you know, my favourite keg. You also have the Hogarten Rosé at 3.3%, which isn't my thing. I've done it, been there, got the T-shirt. Not doing that again. Way too sweet for me. And you have your Left Ruby, which I believe is 5%. That was the first keg I ever had on a Perfectdraft, if I recall, many, many years ago. But that's not one for me. You do have Left Spring as well, which, although we've got Blanche. I'm thinking the Blanche is there, but it's not. Although we've got Blanche, I'd still hope that Left Spring comes back, and that was about 6.6% ABV, if I recall. That came about February, because I was waiting. I was such an idiot. You know, I'm a right dickhead, I admit sometimes, and I was waiting for 6 kegs to be credited, and I had the 3 more to order in my basket, or 2 of them and 1 or something else. And of course, it sold out, didn't it? That was before the express credit. Remember, when you return your kegs now, the express credit is absolutely to die for. They've really got that right. And obviously, you have this one as well as the Coach, which again, one of Michelle's personal favourites. This comes out every year. It's a great keg. You know, it's been a fantastic year, hasn't it? I mean, as I say, we've came out with getting the foreign release that a lot of us were fortunate enough to get in England. We came out with 17 kegs and 2, 4, 6, 8 re-releases, whatever you want to call them. You know, wow, that's not a bad year, is it? That's a 2024. Unfortunately, since Conrad's gone, it's never been the same. So I don't know anything. I actually don't know a thing. So your guess is as good as mine. Anyone hears anything, do contact me. I love a bit of, you know, bit of gossip, a bit of playing it and that. What can I say? As a perfect draft owner, I hope we have a bit of this, because if you think back to the beginning releases, it got better and better and better, to an absolute banging year to be a perfect draft owner. As I say, we will do either our top 5 kegs or the top kegs of the year. I don't know. We'll work something out with that, because I think me and Michelle are a little bit different on them. I say this one was easier to do just me rather than both of us doing your heading. You'd probably just rather her, but I'm much more intelligent when it comes to the kegs. Kind of, in a way. Right, what can I say? Thanks for watching. I'll start off with a Merry Christmases, you know, if anyone gets this far. But I think I'm going to outstay my welcome if I go any further with this, aren't I? So, what can I say? Merry Christmas, everyone. Love you all.